I wish it had paws, you said. It's quite grotesque the way it is. Limbless. Can you imagine it riding in the water like some post-Chernobyl nightmare? I mean, how does it move? Like a torpedo? Or does it shoulder itself against the currents, gnashing with frustration, its furious mane bleached the color of a drowned sun? But take a second look at it, how it is poised so terrestrially, marooned on this rough shore as if unsure of its rightful harbor. Could it be that having taken to this unaccustomed limpidity, it has decided to abandon the seaweed-haunted depths for land? Perhaps it is even ashamed, but what a bold front, to have been a creature of the sea. Look at how it tries to purge itself of its aquatic ancestry in this ceaseless torrent of denial, draining the body of rivers of histories, lymphatic memories. What a riddle, this lesser brother of the Sphinx. What sibling polarity, how its sister's lips are sealed with self-knowledge and how its own jaws clamp open in self-doubt. Still surprised after all these years. Yet, what brand new sun can dry the iridescent slime from the scales, and what fresh rain wash the sting of salt from those chalk-blind eyes? A pause. And why does it keep spewing that way? I know exactly what you mean, I said, eyeing the blonde highlights in your black hair and your blue lenses the shadow of a foreign sky. It spews continually, if only to ruffle its own reflection in the water. Such reminders will only scare a creature so eager to reinvent itself. Another pause. Yes, you finally replied, in that quiet accent of yours. Well, yes, but I still do wish it had paused. So that was The Merlion by Alfian. And I think before we engage in further discussion, it's also important to note the difference in time period. So obviously, Alfian Sa'd's poetry was written I would say in the 90s, late 90s, I'm not very sure. But it's in a more globalized Singapore. It's written in a Singapore that's more exposed to Western culture and that's gradually becoming more engaged with Western culture. And I think henceforth marks the start of the end for our tragic hero here today. So essentially the Merlion here, the Merlion as in the poem here, discusses our sort of internal struggle with our own national and individual identity. So the main similarity between the two poems here, and I think the main reason why I chose these two poems as a sort of comparison, is that the Merlion is a one-to-one representation of us. Except in this case, it's described in these really gross, repulsive terms. So it's grotesque, it's limbless, it's a post-Chernobyl nightmare. There's a kinesthetic imagery of it shouldering itself against the currents, gnashing with frustration. Its furious mane bleached the color of a drowned sun. So you have all these rolling R sounds to kind of signify that sort of conflict and that physical it's sort of like a friction. So if you think about the image itself of shouldering itself against the currents, gnashing with frustration, it's sort of like trying to push back against the tide. And yeah, if you remember just now, a very choice word used by Tambu is the word mutation. So in this case, the image of shouldering itself against the currents, it suggests a sort of like physical disabilities or physical ailments brought on by mutation, right? It's sort of like going back to the image of Chernobyl, like brought on by radiation. or in this case brought on by that internal struggle with itself to find its own identity. And moving on, we're also seeing a lot of clues here that lock us into this really insecure, this really hesitant and uncertain Merlion. So the Merlion here is unsure of its rightful harbor. Its own jaws are clamped open in self-doubt. And very interesting here are the comparisons to its cousins in other lands as well. So the Merlion is described as a lesser brother of the Sphinx. Okay. It's also described it's also compared to the Statue of Liberty, right? So just now the image of its own jaws clamped open in self-doubt, but the Statue of Liberty's lips are sealed with self-knowledge. So there's all these debilitating comparisons to other non-Singaporean statues here that go on to re-emphasize the Merlion's own insecurity with itself and its own inadequacy when it compares itself to all these other national icons or monuments. And when we consider the stanza, perhaps it is even ashamed to have been a creature of the sea. Look at how it tries to purge itself of its aquatic ancestry in this ceaseless torrent of denial, draining the body of rivers of history's lymphatic memories. So there is a very, very conscious effort here to clear away its own heritage, to clear away its own historical culture, its own upbringing, in order to replace it with something that's more, I would say, Western, with something that's more global. And that feeds into not just the Merlion itself, but also the personas that are talking about the Merlion in this poem, right? So the speaker's friend here has blonde highlights in their black hair. You see the color contrast to make it stand out. They also have blue lenses, the shadow of a foreign sky. Consider the use of the word foreign. And also the persona's friend has a quiet accent. So considering all these descriptions, what comes to mind immediately is, like that one friend that went to the UK for like 1 or 2 years and they come back speaking in a very thick British accent. And I mean, I think that's sort of what the speaker is trying to go for here. It's a Singaporean people that have triumphed over all the obstacles that are thrown at them. It's a Singaporean people that have emerged victorious with a sort of economic success, right? But at the cost of the economic success is the need to connect with the rest of the world, right? To connect with a more globalized economy, to exploit that globalized economy. But there's also side effects of partaking in globalization. So for example, in this case, cultural, I'm not sure if this is too strong a word, but a sort of cultural erasure or a sort of cultural internal struggle to decide whatever culture one should align towards. Or maybe there isn't any struggle at all, right? Maybe one has already decided to move away from their own heritage